Hi! We have another fun video planned here. We're going to be talking about assembly in the BIOS. So last time, if you remember from our last video, we talked about how to, um, well, you know what? Let's just look at it. We set up our screen. We were able to go through and get keys of what people typed in. If they pressed enter, we would show a new line. And if it wasn't an enter key, we would show it on the screen. So that's what we've done so far. And if we look at this file, we are currently using 1632, not quite 48 bytes. So we're slowly chewing up the memory. I mean, we still got a fair amount of room to do some fun stuff in yet. So that is good. Now our goal for today is we're going to save what the user typed in, and then we're going to display it back to them. And we're actually going to put the word echo in front of it just so that we can modify it, and we're going to do a little bit of a controlled overflow. So normally these are things that you try to avoid, but we're going to show you the fun of assembly where you can break all the rules, and it's okay to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is let's put in our echo string. And it's just echo with a space after it. And notice I am not putting in a 0 after echo. And the reason for that is I'll put in entered string. The user is going to have their string at this memory address. So when we were looking at this, well, it just changed because we added the word echo. Let's get specific about this. We're not going to run it yet. But it looks like we're officially on about byte 49 now, if I'm doing my math right here. Let's see, this is 16, this is 32. Well, anyway, whatever this address is, this is where the user string is going to go. So 3 times 16 plus 1 that's where the address is going to go. And I'm sorry, apparently my brain is just not wanting to do math at this moment. So fair enough, we won't do math. All right, so let's actually start to do this. The command we're going to use is store string byte. Now you'll remember before we use load string byte, and we will be using that again soon, because when we want to display that string, that is what we're going to do. And you know what? Let's just do that. I am going to put a 0 in here now. We do not want it to overflow. And what we're going to do is do a new line, and then we are going to move in. Now this is when they press enter. Sorry, I should probably explain the context. They're going to look through when they press enter. We're just going to say the word echo. We're not actually going to show them their string yet. So we're going to move into our source index for our strings, the location of the echo string. And we're going to loop through each character, so we'll call this a character loop. Ooh, we already have that name. Display character loop. And inside of our little loop here, we're going to do a load string byte. And that's going to put into AL, the E, the C, the H, the O. So we want AH to be already set for us. So let's do that too. Let's move into AH 0. It's the E, which is the 14th letter of the hexadecimal numbers, 14. And after that, we're going to call int10h to actually display it, and then we're going to we're going to jump back to our display character loop. Now, if you're paying attention, you'll realize I'm going to overflow anyway because I do ECH and then I'm not checking to ever see if it's 0. So let's do that real quick. Or ALAL. We've talked about these things before. And if that's the case, then we want to jump out of here. We're going to break out of our display. So we'll do a label here. Label or breakout display. And if this is 0, jump 0, break out of the display. So this should look familiar. Otherwise, please watch the Hello World Again video or the original Hello World from back in the day for BIOS assembly. And I mean, we're also displaying characters up here as well. So some of this should look familiar. So this should work. Let's run it and see what happens. And it just says echo, and then we can type in more stuff. So we'll want a new line or two after that echo. I already see that for aesthetics that might be nice. So let's introduce a couple of those once we break out. And let's make and run this again. There we go. I like the looks of that. Now let's actually say echo test and echo these random letters that I just put in. So with SI, this is the source index, and with load string byte, this is this. We're going to use DI, which is the destination index, and we'll use store string byte. Now where we're going to store it, I'm going to get rid of this 0 now because we will want to overflow, is going to be into our entered string. So what we will do is when we first get started outside of the loop, we're going to move into DI our entered string location. And once they enter, or once they add a character here, or I should say once we get their key, what we will do is, let's see here. Let's store it. We won't necessarily store their enter key press, right? So we will store their string byte. This is basically the opposite of loading. So now we're going to be putting values wherever DI is pointing to, and then it'll increment automatically as well. So we're going to start filling in this space after here. And that all sounds good. There's only a couple caveats here. One is we're not putting a 0 at the end of this string. We want it when they press enter to basically add a 0. So that'll be, let's do that as our first part of the enter. So DI is already in the right spot. What we're going to do is we're going to move into AL 0. And we're going to store that 0. Very nice. Give a little space here since this is starting to do a little bit different type of logic. And we can put in a comment too. Well, we'll put in comments later. That's a good recap tool, I find. All right, so we have a 0. What else could go wrong? Oh, yes. So let's say that we display their string on the screen, and then we call our new lines, but we're not actually ever erasing this string and starting over. So every time they type, it will just get longer and longer. So what we want to do now is once we are done displaying, what we're going to do is move DI back to the beginning of that entered string. So if we type in the word testing and we add our 0 null byte at the end of it, when it's done displaying this, we want the pointer to go back to the beginning here. We don't want it to keep adding after this 0. Otherwise, it'll just keep saying the word testing over and over because it'll hit this 0, and then there might be a whole bunch of stuff here, but it doesn't matter. And eventually we'll run out of our 510 as well of zeros that burn up. So that is what this does, is it takes us back to the beginning. And let's run this. Test, echo test. Testing 2, testing 2. There we go. So we have successfully gone through now, and we are capturing what they're inputting. We're displaying it on the screen, and then we're writing it into this memory location. And then when we're done displaying the word echo in front of it, this obviously overflows without the 0. It'll just keep on going, which is kind of nifty. That's why we're passing in the, where is it? Echo string, because we want to include that word echo. It'll display their string as well, and then we reset so that we write over their string again. So let's walk through that process, and it'll give me a chance to comment out our code and finalize this step in the process. So and then obviously the next video, we plan on actually being able to compare strings and then exit or end the process if they type in the word exit. So for this, we are moving DI, the destination index, to beginning of entered string. I'll just put string. I sort of want to keep my comments looking sort of nice. This is new. Store character into it's not really a RAM I guess it is sort of a RAM location. We'll just put store character into DI location. That way it helps explain why we're using DI instead of SI as well. All right. Store null byte at end of string. Actually store it. Line of code that doesn't do anything. It just looks nice. Another one. All right. We want to display echo and the string. Set to display characters. This is obviously a loop. Don't need a comment for that. Load character at SI. Make sure character is not 0. Breakout if it is 0. Show the character on the screen. This is obviously just running the loop. This is just breaking us out of the loop. And reset DI to beginning of string. This is great. I'm saying one word and typing a completely different word. There we go. So we have covered what we did before, and now we are able to type in values, save them, and display it back. I hope you found this video educational and that you learned something from it. Please like, subscribe if you want to do those types of things, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video. Again, the next video we will look at what they saved. So for instance, let's say if they type in the word exit, right now it just say echo exit. we want to capture that and say if they said exit, that we're going to end the process or end the program and stop the machine, kind of like if you were exiting out of a terminal. So that's all I have for you today, and we look forward to seeing you next time.